You've all come across the darknet or the deep web at some point in time while browsing the internet. Most people confuse the darknet for the deep web, but these two things aren't exactly the same. You also might have heard a few gruesome stories about stuff that goes on the dark web, but these things aren't exactly true. So we've decided to clear up a few general misconceptions about the dark web and tell you how this whole thing works. There are more than 1.8 billion websites on the internet at the time of making this video, and today almost 140,000 websites are being created every single day. Now before we dive in, you need to have a basic understanding of how search engines like Google and Bing work. A web server basically consists of two main parts, a crawler and an indexer. Now these are nothing but computer programs written in languages like Python or PHP. A crawler's job is to constantly search the internet for new websites that are being launched, and when it finds them, it goes through their content and extracts any kind of useful information it finds and sends it back to the search engine server. This is where an indexer comes in. The indexer, as its name implies, takes this data and stores it in a database in a particular order. Search engines like Google maintain data centers as big as 13 football fields put together. Now when you go to Google's homepage and type in a query, Google will break that query down into different keywords and match these keywords against the information in the database and retrieve the most useful links and display them in an order determined by an algorithm called PageRank. This may lead you to think that Google has access to all the information on the World Wide Web, but that is far from true, because Google has access to only 1% of the entire internet. It is true that Google's crawler goes around the internet finding new websites, but there are sites out there that explicitly tell Google not to go through its content and index it, or remain hidden over a relay network altogether, making them impossible to find. Imagine the World Wide Web as one big iceberg. The part of the internet you can access through Google is what is known as the surface web. The remaining 99% of the internet that remains hidden is what is known as the deep web. The deep web can only be accessed through certain special software such as Tor to keep your identity anonymous. Unlike your regular websites that end with .com or .org, most deep websites end with the .onion extension, and their URLs are usually a mix of random letters and numbers that look like this. Now the deep web isn't really filled with corrupt websites like you would imagine. Most of these deep web sites are those that contain files, records, and other information that isn't accessible to the general public and is owned by companies, banks, hospitals, and other organizations. However, a small portion of the deep web that is the most secure and inaccessible part on the internet, where every kind of illegal activity takes place, is known as the dark web. According to researchers, the darknet majorly consists of child pornography, followed by drug market sites and websites where stolen credit cards, debit cards, and other electronic gadgets are bought or sold. Sites known as red rooms live stream torture and executions. However, there is no proof that sites like these exist, so you will never know for sure. But just so you know, almost all dark websites are illegal to access, and if you aren't careful enough, you might end up exposing your real IP address and get in trouble. So it's best that you stay away from these sites altogether. With that, we've come to the end of today's video. If you liked the video, hit that like button and get subscribed, and stay tuned for our next video. Also feel free to leave any thoughts or suggestions in the comments below.